Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salebox for the 17th of July 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit, rounding up your daily Steam deals. As always, these deals last for 48 hours, meaning that yesterday's are still around. You might want to go check them out, and you can do so by watching yesterday's Salebox. Nice and convenient way to do so. Just bear in mind that I will not list the Australian price unless it is different from the US price. Bad news, Australians, I'm sorry. God, I really feel for my Australian user base, I really do. Today is particularly bad for them. Half the prices are higher in Australia, so I'm so sorry. It's not my fault. Well, I guess it kind of is. My ancestors sent you to the colonies after all, so maybe it is indirectly. Alright, so let's kick it off, shall we, with Dead Island Riptide, 50% off. That's $20, €20, £17.49. Australia gets to pay $27.49, because, you know, why not? This is not available in Germany, by the way, I believe, due to violence restrictions and so on and so forth. Not the best deal. Riptide is very much an iterative sequel on the original Dead Island. It is a better game, but not by enough for me to say, you should go play this immediately. It's a pretty good co-op zombie slaying experience. It does have some very satisfying melee combat, and it's got a nice open world that is worthy of exploration. Also, you can run over zombies in boats, which is not something you get to do in most games. However, the game is still a little bit ropey. It has FOV issues. The guns break if you try and force a higher FOV in the INI files, which is not good at all. And it is primarily developed as a co-op experience. It is better in co-op due to the synergy of the different characters than it is in single player. So just bear that one in mind. It's, I don't know. I mean, I had fun with it, but at that price, it's not the kind of thing that you need to immediately jump on. I think that's perhaps the most important thing to say. It's not one of those deals that's just so incredible that you have to jump on it regardless of reservations about the game. The game is good, it is not great. So at that discount, unless you're really enamored by the idea, then personally, I wouldn't bother. Evoland, 50% off, takes it down to $5, €5, and £3.49. Evoland is a game based on the evolution of video games. It starts off as a really, really basic Game Boy style monochrome title and rapidly develops throughout the ages. And you can note there's all sorts of different battle systems in there, including Zelda style, as well as Final Fantasy and so on and so forth. It's an interesting experience and an interesting experiment. Is the game itself solid enough to carry it through? In my opinion, no. Unless you are very enamored by the idea of it, then you'll probably find that the overall gameplay of it is just not that good. It doesn't really have much of a story to it. It's not a particularly good game mechanically. It really is a stack of references, both in terms of its mechanics and in terms of all of the little in-jokes that it slips in there. It's a nice little nostalgia trip, but it doesn't stand on its own as a good game. So, unless you are desperate to experience a little travel through time, as it were, then I wouldn't necessarily bother with Evoland right now. Ace of Spades, 75% off, taking it down to $2.50, €1.99, £1.74. This game is awful. It really, really is. Basically, what happened was a company called Jagex or Jagex, however the hell you want to pronounce it, the developers of RuneScape, bought the rights to the Ace of Spades name and game, and then made a completely different one that was clearly aimed at Call of Duty fans, as opposed to the guys that were enjoying the original, which was much more of a tactical building and sniping game, whereby it had a lot of one-shot kills and so on and so forth. That was actually quite interesting. A lot of trench warfare. This game is a gimmicky mess that has no direction to it whatsoever, and terrible FPS mechanics. It is dull. Astonishingly dull. I have never had less fun shooting a gun in a video game, honestly. I probably would have if I got to that stage in Ride to Hell Retribution, but this would be a pretty close second regardless. I would avoid this at all costs regardless of the price. It's just not very fun, and it is a hodgepodge, a mess, and certainly by no means lives up to its namesake. GTA 4, 75% off at $5, €5, £5, what? And $12.49. I guess the Australians had to beat us again on that one. Good lord, guys, come on. Some kind of dingo tax. Whatever the case, GTA 4 is a weird one because the port was sort of middle of the road and kind of worked on some systems and not on others, which was really strange. Not really sure what the explanation for that one was, so I guess you can call it a bad port considering it didn't consistently perform. If you're going to pick this one up, then I would suggest that you get yourself the Complete Edition, because that has episodes from Liberty City with just a small increase in price. And I would have to say that the Ballad of Gay Tony is a fantastic expansion for the title. Lost in the Damned is alright, but Ballad of Gay Tony is great. Really, really good indeed. Also brings some of the fun back to the game. It was a little bit too serious before that, in my opinion. If you're gonna get this game, I'd suggest that you download the IC Enhancer Pack, which is a set of mods which make the game look incredible if you've got the system to actually run it. Aside from that, it's actually kind of an ugly game, unfortunately. GTA 4 is enjoyable, I think, in terms of it being a really great open world, although some people dislike the driving and the shooting, and also the fact that you're consistently interrupted by requests to go bowling. I think it's actually one of the weaker entries to the GTA series. I personally preferred Vice City. If I'm totally frank, it's not down to the fact that it's technically inferior. I mean, it puts out an amazing world that is clearly technologically far in front of what Vice City and even San Andreas had, but it's just plain not as fun. It takes itself very, very seriously, and I don't necessarily like that. As I said, Ballad of Gay Tony, though, did fix that quite a lot, so if you've been holding off, now might be the time to pull the trigger. Deus Ex Human Revolution, again, 85% off. Isn't this like the 50th time we've seen this on sale already? It was actually on a flash sale earlier. That's $3 at €2.84, $1.79 in Tier 2, £2.24, and $3 Aussie $74. God, I don't even need to tell you to pick this game up for this price, assuming that you don't already own it. This game goes on sale an awful lot. This time around, the discounts on it have been ridiculous. It's a phenomenal game. For $3? Are you fucking kidding me? Really? You really need to make that decision. No, you don't need to make that decision. You just need to buy the damn thing and play it, because it is a fine, fine FPS with some excellent stealth elements and some good RPG parts to it. I am a huge proponent of Deus Ex Human Revolution. The only massive problem I have with it is the fact that the boss battles suck ass. Aside from that, though, definitely worthwhile. And I would also suggest, by the way, that you pick up the Expand alone for that title, which goes by the name of The Missing Link, which is $1. $1. Steam is silly. Mountain Blade with Fire and Sword. 75% off, that is $2.49, €2.49, and £1.99. Okay, so this should cover the whole franchise, so I will make the recommendation that I always do, which is to get Warband instead. That's because Warband is better, for the most part. The problem with Fire and Sword is its emphasis on firearms, which sounds fun until you realize it bloody well isn't. Yeah? Dodging arrows and throwing axes and javelins and things like that in Warband was a lot easier and a lot more fun than dodging freaking guns, which means that the best part of Warband, which is riding through a crowd of people with a damn couched lance and taking people's heads off with a heavy bardiche, is replaced by boring musket play. I am not into that. I really do not like that at all. What I will say is that Fire and Sword is a lot cheaper than Warband is, and that in itself is perhaps a reason to grab it, but even then, Warband's just so much better. It's also got great mod support. For those who don't know what it is an extremely enjoyable, kind of sandboxy medieval combat simulator. You gather an army, you ride around in third person, you make trades, you take part in tournaments, you try and take over territory, and you fight in these big Total War-esque battles whereby you are actually in third person fighting on the back of a horse, and it's damn fun. And that is what I would recommend. It's also very challenging and highly unforgiving, so if you're looking for something that may throw a few obstacles in your way, then Mountain Blade is certainly for you. Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes, 66% off, takes it down to $13.59, €12.57, and £10.19. Okay, so Fallen Enchantress is the sequel, the pseudo-sequel, I suppose, or indeed the apology to Elemental War of Magic. But Legendary Heroes is the follow-up to Fallen Enchantress. It's a standalone expansion, it's the best version of it. Frankly, Fallen Enchantress was a hell of a lot better than Elemental, because Elemental was a damn mess. Legendary Heroes is even better than that. So it's got to the point where it's actually a really good, solid 4X. It's not very good looking. Like, it's pretty ugly. But the amount of improvements that they've put on this is actually fairly impressive. And Stardock has finally kind of salvaged its reputation after a couple of pretty poor games. Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes is something I would recommend if you are interested in a fantasy 4X strategy game with plenty of magic involved in it. The price may very well put you off, and I wouldn't blame you for that. It's not the best discount in the world, and it's still fairly expensive. I mean, you can buy half the games on this list for the price that it would cost you for Fallen Enchantress here, so it may very well be that you wish to avoid that. However, there is a certain niche that would jump at the chance for a game like this, and Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes does deliver. Batman Arkham City Game of the Year Edition, 75% off, taking it down to $7.49, €7.49 in Tier 1. EU Tier 2 does not have this game available. I am so sorry. And that's also available for £5 there. Now, Arkham City used to have games for Windows Live. The question is, does it still? Unfortunately, yes. To add on to that, it has a second layer of DRM in the form of Secure ROM and a third layer of DRM in the form of Steam. Not ideal, to say the least. Which is a shame, because the game's actually really good. The game itself includes various different skins, different playable characters and content, comes with a bunch of challenge packs as well as the Nightwing bundle pack and so on and so forth. Got loads and loads of great content in it, and if you are looking for a Batman game, this is pretty much the best one. Some people would argue that Arkham City is not as good as Arkham Asylum. Maybe you're right there. Arkham Asylum's a little bit more linear. Arkham City's a little bit more open world. Arkham Asylum's strength is in its linearity, in my honest opinion, because it's a very nicely made game. I don't know, I liked Arkham City a little better, I've got to say, and I think the combat has been expanded to a nice degree, and gliding around the city is extremely enjoyable. Definitely one of the best superhero games ever made, as far as I'm concerned, but there are those PC concerns with games for Windows Live. So, I have heard of various complaints, including bugs with save files and deletions and an inability to authenticate and nonsense like that. So just bear that in mind as you go into it. Yes, it's very cheap, but you may run into problems because of the absurd DRM that game sadly has. Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, 75% off. That's $7.49, €7.49, and £4.99. Australian Wallets Prepare to Die Edition, $12.48. This is not available in Tier 2 because it's games for Windows Live game again. The port of this was really bad. Let's just be entirely frank. However, it was fixed in post by a number of enterprising modders, including the ability to vastly increase the graphical fidelity, unlock the frame rate to 60, as well as bypass games for Windows Live for an offline mode. And if I recall correctly, there's also some mods available for the keyboard and mouse controls, which some people would argue are pretty good. I would still recommend that you use a controller with this game. It was very clearly designed with analog movement in mind, and the keyboard controls don't work that well, but there are some people that have said with the actual control mods that they're absolutely fine. What you need to be looking for is the DS Fix. That is what contains the vast majority of the really good mods for this title. It is DS Fix version 2.0.1, that's the latest. And it was kind of sad that the port was in the state that it was in, because it's really good. I mean, it's an incredible game. It's a third-person action RPG that is very, very difficult and also happens to present this very grim world. I think the coolest thing about Dark Souls is that its method of storytelling is extremely passive. It leaves you to discover the lore and the mysteries of the world on your own, and it doesn't force the story down your throat, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a great game. It's a shame the port was as bad as it is, but one has to say that it's got significantly better with the addition of those mods. Again, beware games for Windows Live, however, it is the demon. Brings us on to our deal of the day, which might surprise a few of you. I've picked Tropico 4, 80% off, takes it down to $6, €6 in Tier 1, €4.19 in Tier 2. That's £4.99, and yes, Australia, I'm sorry, $8. And they're not having good luck today, are they? So, Tropico 4, this is the Steam Special Edition. All of the DLC is also 80% off as well. A lot of the DLC is kind of rubbish, but what I will say as well, something to bear in mind, is that Tropico 3 is also 80% off. Okay, so the difference between Tropico 4 and 3 is fairly marginal, yeah? The games both kind of do the same thing. Tropico 4 does it a little bit better, but it is very much an iterative upgrade. So if you've never played Tropico before and you're also on a bit of a budget, I would get Tropico 3, frankly. And make sure, by the way, that you get the update for Tropico 3 as well, because that is a really, really good expansion. The name of that is Absolute Power. You can either get that 80% off if you already own Tropico 3, or you can just get the Gold Edition. Bear in mind, Steam Special Edition and Gold Edition are not the same thing. That can be a little bit confusing, but the Gold Edition is what has the Absolute Power expansion in it. As for Tropico 4, again, I still think it's a slightly better game than Tropico 3, but it is not a big enough upgrade to say, oh yeah, you should definitely get this instead. DLC-wise, you can avoid most of it, aside from grabbing the Modern Times expansion. That's the biggest one. The rest of it's pretty bad. Like, it's tiny little pieces of DLC with, like, one building and one scenario map. It's really not that good. Modern Times is actually a pretty reasonable upgrade. Both of these games are city builders, and they task you with taking a banana republic. Your charismatic leader, El Presidente, will be your avatar, and you will be able to construct your very own little island republic, and also deal with the intrusions of various other foreign powers. It's pretty cool. It's got a really nice economy to it. It's well simulated. It's also quite small in terms of its population. The individual citizens are properly simulated, but like the actual population of the island will probably be only a couple of hundred people. The only problem I really have with Tropico is that let's just say the workers are a little bit lazy. Like, if you put something down as a blueprint, they may never get to it for days, and the lack of control there can get fairly frustrating, especially when some of those buildings are vital for you not going bankrupt. That's the biggest flaw that game has. It's highly frustrating. If you can get past that, you will find an extremely enjoyable city building experience that is certainly an arseload better than SimCity, I can tell you that for a fact. Alright folks, that pretty much wraps me up for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Salebox. I will see you next time.